All right, welcome back to my Darling Bride podcast, powered by Refuge and Fortress Network. My name is Emmanuel O.
And I'm Lonnie O.
On this podcast, we dig, discover, and deploy biblical gems for the building or rebuilding of kingdom homes and relationships.
Yes, we are on a mission to equip couples on how to build on a rock-solid foundation, cultivate a culture of honor and respect, invest intentionally and consistently in your marriage or relationship, defend your union, and lastly, empower one another towards purpose fulfillment.
I'm telling you, this is where love meets legacy. We got a good one for you today. Let's get it. So the truth of the matter is today's episode is going to hit deep for a lot of couples.
Yes, because today we're talking about something every marriage faces or will face. And it's called seasons of change.
Seasons of change.
Essentially just talking about how we deal with transitions in our marriage when life just keeps life.
All right. So before we even go any further, let me just use this opportunity to say welcome to the month of June.
Yes.
We are in a new season, and based on what was just said, what we're talking about this week is really giving it away what the series is going to be. And that is growing pains.
Yes.
I call it growing pains because there is no growth without pain. Can I say that again?
Hello.
You think that's all right? There is no growth without pain. You know, just recently we went back to the gym, and as we're working out, and I'm working on the backs and the biceps, triceps and chest and things like that. And I'm saying to myself, right before we started, right, I'm telling my wife, I'm like, look, I don't ever want to go back. And she's like, why not? I'm like, because it hurts.
It hurts.
That first couple of weeks, you know what I'm saying? It's just, it really hurts. But that's where growth comes from. And so when I go in the gym now and I'm saying to myself, let's say for example, let me just use this as an example, right? If I usually bench, let's say like 100, 150 or 250 or something like that, right? And here I am just working on 75 or something like that, right? That's light. That's light for me.
Right.
And it's not really getting anything done. There's not going to be any growth. The growth really happens when there's pain and there's pushing that really brings that growth that we need, right? So we're going to be really discussing marriage growth, how we grow through phases and changes in our lives and rather than letting it cause us to be stuck to give up, we actually grow from it. Does that make sense?
And that was a great analogy. I like that. Because when you push through, you then realize your body gets used to it. Now you can, like you said, bench 250 or even more because now you've gone through that phase.
You've allowed yourself to go through that phase. You know what I'm saying? And they say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Amen. You see what I'm saying? But I wanted to say this though. Listen to me. Whenever you see a couple flying, because remember, we talked about it last month, right? As a couple, either on MDB or on TBT. By the way, if you're not watching, if you don't join us on Tuesdays on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram for our Tuesday teachings on relationship and faith and family and all kinds of stuff, you are doing yourself a disservice. Let me stop right here and tell you, join us every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Central, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You're not going to regret it. But we talked about couples are either fighting or flying. There's only two choices. You're either fighting with one another or you're flying together. You follow what I'm saying? But I will say this, that whenever you see couples flying, understand that it didn't just happen overnight.
That's right.
There was moments of crawling, moments of crawling backwards, moments of crawling forward, moments of walking and walking on crutches. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We have a newborn. She's learning how to walk now. And many times you see her walking forward and backwards.
Yeah.
You see her walking in circles. You see her smacking herself to the wall and things like that.
Yeah.
And then as of
Different
recent,
phases.
she's standing all by herself and she's about to start walking without help.
Yeah.
That's usually how marriage is.
Yeah.
So whenever you find people flying, understand that they didn't just get there.
Mm-hmm.
Wings didn't just grow
Didn't happen overnight.
and they're just flying.
Yeah.
Right now,
Yeah.
we're not at the height we want to be just yet.
Yeah.
But we're definitely not in the crawling stage, walking, or even running stage. To the glory of God,
yes.
I can say we're flying now. And the reason why I say we're flying is because there are times where you might be able to say that our marriage is sort of working on autopilots now. Like we can to an extent leave the marriage to function on its own on autopilot because of the work that we've put
into it
to get to this level.
Yeah.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Essentially, going back to what we're talking about, seasons of change.
Yes.
But before we get into the meat of it, right? Do you want to share very quickly, like, examples of seasons of change that we've had to deal with?
Okay.
I know we got a lot.
We have a lot.
We got a lot, but we're gonna talk about maybe one or two, maybe three.
When we talk about just examples of seasons of change, it could be, you had a child, it could be somebody passed, it could be career change, just something that changed in the marriage that you had to work through. For us, I feel like one big one for us was when we moved.
That's a big one.
Relocation.
Yeah. Relocation.
We were in New York for. I've always been in New York.
You've always been in New York.
I've always been in New York. He moved to New York from Maryland, Ohio, right? And he was there. You were there for 7 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we got married
in New York.
Stayed in New York, and then decided to move out. It's not even decided. God told us to get up and go.
Yep.
Literally.
Yep.
It wasn't even our choice because, to be honest, left to me, I would have still stayed. So it was a get up and go.
Get up and go kind of thing.
We actually got that call from God like early in the year before we moved.
Mm-hmm.
But we waited almost like 8-9 months before we actually got up and moved, because it was hard. It was tough. Everything we knew and were familiar with was in New York. And
it was almost like God was asking us, leave the familiar,
yes,
embrace the unfamiliar,
yes,
leave your father's house, if you will, and go to a land that I will show you.
Exactly.
And that was a tough
it
one
was
to
it was very
obey.
Tough.
At that time,
I mean, we already bought a house in New York. We already had our second child already in New York, and we had to just get up and pack all our stuff and
not
go.
to mention, we're already running businesses in New York.
We're very
heavily
involved in church,
in ministry.
Yeah. It was tough.
Yeah.
And leaving everybody and everyone that we're familiar with, it was a hard time. And there was a lot, when I say a lot of noise, I mean, we can't begin to describe how crazy that time was. It was conflicting, it was confusing. We were starting our ministry, we're leaving one, we were leaving our family, expanding our family, and it was just a confusing time. It was so loud and it was just so much. I mean, financially we were still trying to get ourselves together. I mean, when I say like it was tough. Like I feel like that was a shift.
That was a major transition.
Transition for us.
And again, man, it's just about a matter of really just obeying God and see what He does with that.
Yeah.
And the reason why that was a change for us, number one, just from a natural standpoint, is a change of environment. Period. Right?
Yeah.
You're leaving a place that you know to a place that you don't really know.
Yeah.
You're leaving the people you know to go meet the people you don't really know, right?
It's like starting all over.
It's like starting all over again, right? So that's changed, and that's changed not only for us, that's changed for our kids as well, and things like that. But also, you're leaving a whole lot more behind. You're leaving a job. You're leaving businesses.
Yeah.
You're leaving, money
ministry
on the table. You're leaving a functioning church ministry
that you're
a part of to go do this thing that God is telling you to do.
Yeah.
With no instruction, really, just a word, and will you obey kind of thing.
Just get up and go.
And just get up and go, right? And I mean, we're going to talk more about that maybe.
Yeah,
but
we are going to talk
another one that I would say was a big one for us would be, we're talking about moments of change now, right? Changes that happens and really kind of like whoa, this is a change. You know what I'm saying? I would say when we started our business. When we started our transportation business, that was a huge
that was
one.
Crazy year.
So we had just gotten the property at that time. We just got our first child at that time. You know, I was working on Wall Street. She was working as well in an accounting firm. Like, really, from a corporate standpoint, we were doing good.
Right.
You know, but then we decided, man, we don't want to do 9 to 5 forever.
Yeah.
And there's no better time to try your hand in other things than now, right? While you still can.
Yeah.
So we just went for it, man. My wife stayed in corporate. I went into business. And it was a tough,
with a 3-month-old.
tough first year for us because and I think it was even more tough because something happened, right? I had my mind set on one thing. But as I was executing and as I was moving and doing things, I deviated from my business plan to follow this other thing that showed up, right? It seemed at the time like a very good opportunity. Let me just use one example. I was going to get a cargo van, but a truck presented itself. And it presented itself in a way where to afford the truck was going to be easier. It was going to be smoother. Matter of fact, the business opportunity with that truck was better, more promising, not better, more promising than with the cargo van, right?
Yeah.
Which in most cases may not usually be true.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes it's not in the glamour. You know what I mean? So, but I should have known that was the wrong call.
Yeah.
Because the first day we got that truck on the road, we had not an accident, but a tree hit the top of the truck.
Boom.
And to fix that cost us a whole lot of money. I'm like, bro, day one.
And you have to fix it because you're carrying cargo and you don't want it if it rains.
And it's different if you're carrying cargo from client to client.
Yeah.
You're carrying business to business cargo. You know what I mean? You're carrying loads, thousands and thousands of worth of goods. And so there are responsibilities that is bestowed upon you with this partnership that you've just gotten yourself into with this other people. And so we were stuck in that contract, if you will. And that was tough for us. That was tough for us because we were making a lot of money. The business was doing great revenue-wise, but profit-wise, it was just not making sense.
Yeah.
And I was just telling myself, what in the world is this, right? My wife was trying her best to hold us together with her corporate job. Again, I just said something right there. My wife was doing her best to hold us together, right? That meant that she was making the money. Of course, she was making the money that we could rely on.
Yes.
The business money was doing good,
but it was
unreliable. And it was going back into the business.
Yeah.
You follow what I'm saying? So I didn't even see that as money, to be quite honest, because if the profit is not at the level that I was making before or more, I'm not looking at that like I'm making money, right? Revenue is revenue because you still got to pay the driver. You got to pay hefty truck insurance, business insurance, gas, maintenance, licensing,
everything.
Certification, general liability insurance. There's a whole lot that just goes into this, man. And sometimes you're driving interstate.
It was a lot.
It was just a lot, right? It was just a lot. And man, that first year really stretched us, right? So I would say that was a moment of change for us. And when you think about it, right, you're asking yourself, even in this conversation, what shifted? Right? What shifted for us emotionally, spiritually, even relationally? Right?
In that time was really tough
when we started the business,
and I feel like because we were hustling, like
we were in survival
every single
mode.
day, and we had a newborn. We had to figure out, I still had to go to the office. He had to be on the road. Where we put in our newborn? We weren't making enough to be able to put her in a daycare, so we had to rely on family. I remember you said some time when you had to go pick her up, and then you had to come pick me up, and you had to hold her like
at this point. Let me give you a background. Let me give you a background. We had one car, multiple trucks, but one car, right? And I had to drop you off at work, and then drop off the kids at the family at your cousin's house.
Yeah.
And then go do what I got to do, right?
Come back.
Before you close,
Yep.
I have to be done with
Back.
whatever I'm doing.
Go
so I
get
can
her.
park the truck,
Yeah.
go get the car, go get the daughter, go get you.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And that was like our lives.
Yeah.
Our life for a minute.
Yeah.
Waking up very early in the
4
morning.
4 a.m. in the morning.
4 a.m. in the morning.
Taking our newborn.
You know what I'm saying?
Going to drop you in the truck.
It was just
it was
crazy.
It was.
I remember one winter, it was crazy, snowstorm in New York. I had to rush whatever I was doing, go park the truck, go get the baby at the cousins, and drive from the Bronx to White Plains.
Almost like 45
over
minutes
an hour in traffic, rush hour, in
crazy
the snow,
weather.
right? And she's crying crazy in the back.
Crazy.
I'm driving as slow as possible so we can be safe. I mean, it was a mess.
It was
a mess.
And I think for us, with our marriage, during that time, I felt like that first year too, we had a lot of bickering, a lot of
arguing.
I mean, there was one point in time, and we pointed this out to ourselves too. There was one point in time when it just felt like every Sunday, it's either when we're going to church or coming back from church, we were arguing.
Every Sunday.
Unfailingly. It's like, what are we arguing about? Something. We were just always arguing and fighting about something. And we had to point it out, like, wait a minute, this is a pattern now. This is something that's happening. And that year was just a lot going on, trying to kind of get our footing. You know, we're newly married, we're new parents, you know, we just bought our first property. We're trying to really like kind of stabilize ourselves. And it was just a lot going on. And I felt like in doing that, we're also trying to make sure this was good too. So it was just a lot of moving parts. And I think we were still just trying to find our footing in everything, you know, being good parents, being good husband and wives to each other, but also meeting our responsibilities in ministry, in church, at work, and with our business and all that. So it was
I'm just gonna go ahead and say this. Every transition will test your foundation.
Yes.
It will test what your foundation is really made up of.
Absolutely.
And that's why they really tell you, look, when you want to get married, make sure you're building on a rock solid foundation, like we said.
Yeah.
Equipping couples to build
on a rock.
That's the first thing. Building on a rock solid foundation.
Yeah.
Because we've had transitions. I mean, we just talked about one, the business one, right? That really shook us. It really stretched us.
Yeah.
It really tested our love for one another.
Yeah.
It tested our patience for one another. It tested our sacrifice for one another, right?
Yeah.
If I had a wife who was like, look, I'm not about this life. Like, I know we want to start a business, but I didn't come here for survival. I came for soft life. Right? That would have been a problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if I'm one of those who blame other people for my own situation, I would have pointed fingers at her all the time to make it look like as though she was the one that was causing everything else not to be working out.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because men do that sometimes. We don't have anybody else to blame for whatever we have going on in our lives. And the closest person to us happens to be our spouse, and we just take it out on her.
Yeah.
And we say things like, you know, I probably shouldn't have married you. You don't understand my struggles. You don't know where I'm coming from. You don't understand me.
You're the one
You're in the way.
You wanted that.
You wanted this. You wanted that. You're not allowing us to thrive like we should be. All kinds of stuff. You just keep throwing blames at the wrong person. So the glory of God at that time, one thing I will say we were doing consistently though, we did not turn our back against God.
Yes.
No matter what the case may be, we kept going to church.
Yeah.
And what that did for us was, number one, help us to continue to maintain a relationship, some form of relationship with God. And I'm going to be honest with you right now. That was the only time we remembered God, when we went to church.
Yeah.
Outside of that, we didn't pray. We didn't read the Bible.
Yeah.
We were too much focused on
life. Yeah.
That we really didn't have time for anything outside of that. And so, but we made it a point though, go to church. Keep serving. Get in there.
Keep being involved.
Keep serving. Keep showing up. Keep showing up and keep hearing whatever they're saying.
Yeah.
And I believe that really helped us to stay anchored. Right? It really helped us to stay anchored and to properly understand and give name to what is really going on. And don't mislabel things because it's more convenient to say that's what it is or that's what it is. Right? And I think church did that for us, right? A pastor preaching all the time, the being word of encouragement that he was saying, and then us being involved in service and everything like that. No matter what the case was, like, I feel like that really helped us to stay anchored throughout that whole process, because eventually the business did pick up. Yeah. Things started looking up. We started making the money that we wanted to be making. Enough for me to say you don't have to keep going to work anymore. You follow what I'm saying? So, and then of course the transition from New York to Maryland, it was
and that really leads us
another
to the
change all over again.
To the next one.
Yeah.
When we talk about what stretched us.
The season that stretched us the most.
What season stretched us the most? When we're talking about stretching us.
Oh my God.
The season. And that's why when I was talking about what changed, I didn't talk too much about it, because we're going to talk about it now.
There you go.
When we talk about
you got the floor, mama.
When we talk about what stretched us, I mean,
most.
Elastic stretch. It was when we moved. I mean, I felt like in our lives, that was one of the
hardest,
toughest time of our lives. I mean, we're not the kind of people that wear our feelings on our sleeves. We don't show it, because whatever's happening with us happens with us in our comfort zone. Yeah. So it might not have looked at it. I know a lot of people probably watching like, it might not have looked like it, but it was hard. Yeah. It was tough. I mean, we cried, we prayed.
Man.
There were times we almost gave up. I mean, it was just like, it's too much. There was so much noise. We felt alone for a good point in time. We felt like it was just us, and it just felt like, man, did we even make the right decision? That was what we kept asking ourselves for almost a year. Did we make mind you, we didn't even decide that. God told us to get up and go. It wasn't our choice. That's how crazy it was. But we sat there and we're just like, man, did we make the right decision?
Let me tell you, I think it was Keon Anderson that said this. Purpose will have you questioning yourself.
Yes.
Purpose will have you asking questions like, did I make the right decision? Yes. Purpose will have you doubting yourself.
Yeah.
Purpose will have you almost blaming God.
Yeah.
And saying, God, why you do this? Why? What was the point of all this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Purpose will have, when you're chasing purpose, it's what I mean.
Yeah.
When you're following purpose, you will be tested to the point of giving up.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus came to save the whole world. Yet, in his purpose, Satan came to tempt him.
Yeah.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Purpose will stretch you.
Yeah.
Purpose will test you, and it will make you want to turn back.
Yeah. And when we look back now, we get it. We know why God said get up and go. It makes sense now.
My goodness.
But in that moment,
can I give you some background? Let me unveil a little bit, right? Okay, so here's background. So we left New York, we moved to Maryland.
Right?
We moved to Maryland because my wife was just a no.
I wasn't ready to move out of
Texas.
New York.
We're in Texas now, right?
Yeah. Texas,
like,
wait.
I'm not. I told her, I said, God is telling me that we need to leave, right?
Yeah.
And we need to go to Texas.
Yeah.
And she was like, not happening.
Nope.
Right?
Texas?
So we took time to pray. We prayed for about 8 to 9 months, right? And we prayed with our spiritual father. We spoke to multiple leaders, spiritual leaders and things like that before we actually made the move. Upon me, again, even after all that, it still wasn't an easy move, but we made it nonetheless, right? In obedience to God, right? Yeah. We got up, we went to Maryland because I'm from Maryland. I got family members in Maryland. My parents are in Maryland. It's a little bit closer to New York than Texas, obviously.
Yeah.
But again, it was a thing where it's like, okay, I'm gonna compromise with you.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to Texas, but you don't want to stay in New York because God is telling you for us that we need to move. And I understand you have to do what God is saying, but I'm telling you, I don't want to go as far as Texas, right? And I said, okay, no problem.
Okay, fine. Let's meet in the middle.
We met in the middle. We went to Maryland.
Yeah.
Got to Maryland. Obviously, we had a lot going on, right?
Yeah.
We had
financially,
we weren't in the strongest
point. We weren't even in the place to really move financially.
No, we weren't.
That's how crazy it was.
That's how crazy it was. That's how you know it's faith.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have our I's dotted and our T's crossed. We didn't have the money to make the move.
No.
Whatever we had left, here it is. So we moved to Maryland. We moved to my parents' house.
Yes.
When we got to my parents' house, people were looking at us with 2 kids, by the way. People were looking at us like we were crazy. And they thought like maybe that's why we did it. Maybe life had gotten too hard for us and we wanted to give up or whatever the case may be. So we ran to our parents and said, look, save us, bail us out or whatever the case may be. So because we heard these things after the fact, right? Yeah. We got to Maryland, moved with my parents. Again, we moved because of ministry, right? Yes. So my first initial thought was we're in Maryland now. Let's get going, right? The last $500 we had, the very last money we had in our pocket, we used it to go rent a space to go host a conference so that people would come and things like that. We held the conference. I think about 1 or 2 people showed up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? After we had spent the money to rent that conference. And we kept doing that conference every night that entire month.
Yeah.
When the money ran out, we were like, what are we going to do?
What are we going to do?
My parents obviously weren't willing to allow strangers to come to their house.
Yep.
So we started thinking, what are we going to do, right? And I prayed and I said, God, look, you sent us out here. You got to figure this out.
You got to figure this out.
What are we supposed to do? This is not it. This is not what you showed us.
It's not making sense. It's not making sense.
It's not making sense, right? And I kid you not, less than 3 months, we moved in 2021 in January, February, March. In March, April of that same year, a place opened up for us, a place of our own. We didn't have, we didn't have corporate works that we can show people.
We were on business,
you know what I'm saying? So we had business income, and even business was up and down. It wasn't really producing like it should be. So whatever we had, we just gave it.
We just gave it like that.
And we just told the guy, we said, hey, listen, here's the situation. We just left New York. We're staying here. We're going to get our own place. We don't have W-2s to give you. We don't have pay stub to show you. This is what we have. This is our tax return.
And
this
our word.
Profit and loss statement. Whatever you need.
And we give you our word.
Our word.
That will pay you.
So dude took our paperwork. He checked it and looked over it, and he was like, I don't know why you're doing this. Your paperwork is not making sense.
It's not making sense.
To be quite honest, I should not rent this to you. But I'm going to.
Yeah.
Because I just have a feeling. Literally, that's what he said.
That's literally what he said.
I'm going to because I have a feeling that I have to do this.
Yes.
That's what he said.
Yes.
And he gave us the key.
And he gave us the keys.
To his entire house.
Yep. Yep.
I'm talking about 3 floors up. And it was like,
we couldn't believe it.
The dude was like, if you want to buy this thing later on in the future, I'm willing to let you do that.
Yeah.
And we were like, what? We got the keys. We got into that place.
Yeah.
We loved it. It was beautiful.
And we did not struggle to make the payments.
Money came.
Not once.
Business picked up. We even hired a person.
You
remember?
Yeah.
We hired, I don't remember her name, but
we hired somebody to
help. Business was doing great.
Yeah. Even then, it was still noisy.
It was still a hard transition.
It was still a hard transition. You know, we were still traveling back and forth because there was always something going on. We had to still get up and travel to this place.
To New York. There was just so
much going on that year.
And after maybe about a year and a half.
Yes, a year and a half.
My wife came and said, you know what? I think I understand now. And I see what you were saying. I think I'm ready for Texas.
It's not even just that. I was like, I don't know what happened. I was in the room. I don't even know. Maybe I was putting away laundry, something. And it was just dropped in my heart. And I just got peace on the matter. I'm like, let's go. I don't know how it happened. I just got peace on the matter. Like, go.
Oh,
you're good.
my goodness.
And I just went to him. I'm like, let's move. Let's go to Texas.
I was like, what are you talking about? We're here. We're in Maryland now.
I'm like, let's go.
We're here now. This is what you wanted, right? She's like, no, let's go to Texas.
I was like, let's go to Texas.
Are you sure?
Yep.
And I kid you not, got everything.
About a month after that, or 2 months after that, packed it up again.
Packed it up again.
Crazy.
Out to Texas.
I'm sure people were looking at us like, yo, these people have lost their mind.
Doing the will of the Father. Whatever he tells us to do,
we're ready to
do it. We're ready to obey. Now, here's the thing. When we were in Maryland, we were stressed.
Yeah.
That transition was hard for us because money was rough.
Yeah.
What we came to Maryland to do was not happening the way we wanted it to happen. The noise was a lot. People were talking about us. People were doubting us. People were blaming us.
We didn't
People
really
were
feel
not supportive.
The support. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just crazy. The backlash, the betray you, if you will.
Yeah.
The talking behind our back. Oh,
yeah.
I mean, it was just a lot. You know what I mean? It was a lot. And
we didn't.
One thing we did, we kept a deaf ears to the noise.
We silenced the noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We silenced the noise.
And that's why it didn't break us.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why it didn't break us.
God helped us with that.
Because we were able to stay focused.
Yeah.
And whenever any noise was brought to us, we silenced it immediately. Yeah. We didn't allow anything to come into this union.
Yeah.
We defended the union.
Yeah.
We defended the union by defending each other.
Yeah.
And by defending our marriage.
Yeah.
Are you following what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then another thing we did, we traveled as many times as we needed to.
Yeah.
We would go to Florida, just take a drive to Florida as many times as needed to. We went to Ocean City as many times as needed. Mm-hmm. We went to Florida. We would just take random trips as many times as we just
did things that just gave us peace
off of what was going on.
And I feel like God did something. It almost felt like he kept us he just kind of shielded us, kept us in like a bubble. And just said, we knew noise, like when somebody thinks is going on is so loud, but you're inside some bubble, you can't even hear it. He just shielded us from it because it was a distraction too from what he was telling us to do. I needed you to separate yourself. I needed you to go to a place where I could talk to you, where I could lead you and direct you. And you could listen to just me alone. And he did that. And for that year and a half, even though it was tough, we kept pushing through. We kept making sure that we didn't get broken down by what was going on. We were just hiding under his shadow. We were just hiding under his shadow till we broke through.
So again, we're being vulnerable. We're opening up the curtains into our marriage and how the pains that we've gone through that has led to our growth up until where we're at today, right? In that moment of transition, right? Talking about transitioning from your now to your next, because every time you will have phases of transition, right?
Yes.
And that was one phase for us, right? Number one, we held on to our anchor, which was God. We never waver on our relationship with God, right?
And for our relationship, even
it got better, it got stronger.
Stronger, yeah.
You know what I mean? And we grew. I mean, we were forced to grow spiritually.
Spiritually, yeah.
I will also say this though, that God was good to us by giving us a navigator. And in any moment you find yourself, any moment of transition that you find yourself in, find your navigator. What does that mean? There was a specific man of God that God used for us
in that moment,
in that phase of transition to navigate the terrain of this
cloudy,
uncharted
time, season.
A season in our lives. We had never been in a position like this before. We had never experienced anything like this before. The people that we would go to are part of the people that are working against us, if you will, right? And it was just like, man, we did not expect this to happen like this. But God was so good, he gave us somebody who served as a navigator and reminder of
why he told us to get up
God
and go.
was doing this, keeping us anchored in the word of God, anchored in the vision, anchored in the assignment that God has given us.
Yeah.
And from a very unbiased standpoint, not to say, oh, come do what I'm doing, follow me or whatever.
Yeah,
it was just more of I will avail myself to you.
Yeah.
If you need somebody to talk to, I'm here for you. If you need somebody to remind you what the vision is, I'm here for you. I'm look, the whole world may be against you right now, but at least you know that you have me in your corner kind of thing. And that made a difference.
Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing about God, because even the things that you feel like are familiar, you could kind of depend on, the devil has a way of messing things up.
Yeah.
Where it then feels like you don't have that thing there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what happened. It just felt like the things we could depend on, the people we can depend on, all of a sudden it's like they weren't there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even to say today, those people are still there in our lives,
Absolutely.
to the glory of God. Nothing changed in terms of that relationship. It's just in that time, it felt like we didn't have that at all. We were by ourselves. But then he brought somebody. He brought somebody that said, this is what God said. This is what you should do. This is how you follow. Like you said, without being biased. And it's beautiful. What's beautiful about that is it led us to where we are today.
Yes. Navigators.
It led us to where we are today, where we can look back and say, that's why.
It reminds me
that's what happened.
It reminds me of that person in the Old Testament with the children of Israel. When Moses was trying to, they were in the wilderness, they were trying to get to the promised land.
Yeah.
And Moses didn't know where to go. And he was begging that guy, like, look, you know this land more than we do.
Yeah.
Why don't you help us? Why don't you show us the way? Don't leave us, right? Kind of thing. You read that in the book of Exodus where it was saying, look, don't leave us, help us, be our GPS, be our navigator, help us to navigate this terrain. We obviously don't know this area as much as you do, type of thing. And I'm talking about, in our case, in the realm of the spirit.
Yes.
We've never been in a position like this. We've never navigated or had to navigate this spiritual terrain. And so having somebody there because you got to give credit where credit is due.
Absolutely.
So having somebody there to help us navigate that phase emotionally, spiritually, psychologically,
it made a
huge difference. What am I saying? Look, many times growth does not look like you're winning.
Yeah.
Many times growth just look like you're trying to survive.
Yeah.
I ain't even trying to talk. I'm not even talking about swimming. I'm talking about keeping my head afloat, like just not sinking kind of thing. And you will find yourself sometimes in that position.
Yeah.
It helps many times when you have someone serving as a navigator to help you move forward as you transition. You know what I mean? To help you keep going and to help you ensure that you don't sink. That even if you're not swimming right now, at least stay above water enough till you get your, till you get your rhythm, till you get your rhythm, and you're able to learn how to swim
you can
on
do
your
it
own.
on your own.
You know what I mean? But I'm gonna be here for you to let you know that you're not alone. As a matter of fact, if I need to throw in a life jacket, I'm ready and available to do that for you. But just know you're not alone.
Yeah.
That is so important.
Yes, absolutely.
So important.
And the beautiful thing about that time and that transition, and it goes back to that initial get up and go, and where we had our little back and forth of, okay, I don't want to go too far, but this is where we need to go. The minute we got up and left Maryland and came to Texas, everything changed.
Everything
changed. It went from
the minute we obeyed fully.
Boom. We obeyed.
Partial obedience.
But we didn't obey fully when we first left. The minute we obeyed fully, it went from this to this. It changed.
Yeah.
It changed. And it's like,
good.
I have decided.
God is good.
But on a serious note, and this is what we were saying with that analogy you gave in the beginning. about going to the gym and working out.
Yes.
The minute you push through
and keep pushing
through the storm, he said he will see you through. He will walk with you. He didn't say the storm won't come, but he will see you through. The minute we got out of that cloudy, the fogginess, everything became clear. We saw the light at the end of the tunnel. It was just, forget it.
Now, so we can close.
Yes.
I'm just gonna say this because I feel like we've really opened up our story and we've opened up our own life to really, because we're talking about growing pains. We're talking about growing pains, and today, the topic today is seasons of change. How we handled those transitions, and how we handle transitions, and being able to gracefully move from our now to our next, and things like that. I will share 3 things that we did, that we tools, I should say. Tools for transitioning.
Yes, that we used.
The tools of transitioning that we used and we're still using.
We're still using.
Right?
Because we're still going.
We're still transitioning.
We're not where we were before, but we're still transitioning.
Amen. But I will say this. We talked about this many times. Because many times, we would sit there and say, wow, how did we do it? We reflect and we say, man, how did that happen? Like, wow, God is good. Like, you know what I'm saying? And when we think about it, I really think it comes down to 3 things that we did that really helped us.
Yeah.
One of them was faith.
Yes.
Another one was flexibility. And then communication.
Yes.
My God.
Sorry, just that flexibility part, I feel like that was the hardest part for me.
Yes.
This transition.
Yes. Yes.
Relax.
Yes. Because here's the thing about you.
Oh my God.
That needs to be explained.
I just open a can of worms.
Yes. Let me tell you something. If this thing is black.
They can hear you.
No. Hold on. If this thing is black, and it's always been black.
Yeah.
My wife would freak out.
If it turns blue.
If it turns blue. I'm talking about freak out. She gets so used to things being done a certain way.
And I need time.
Let me land. She gets used to
I should have just kept quiet.
This woman is not for the change. She doesn't like when things change.
I was never. Now I am.
Now you are.
I'm working on it. Working on it. It's a work in progress.
So
I had to be flexible.
Flexibility.
Yes.
And I'm talking about flexibility in everything.
In everything, yes.
In everything. To the point where, for example, if I say, for example, right? Let me just use one example, right?
Just to give an example.
Let me just give one example. Say, for example, we're doing Bible study, right? And I said, hey, look, we're going to be studying the book of John for the next 1 month.
Right.
Right?
Right.
She gets excited. She's like, yes, I want to learn about John.
Study it.
Let's do it, blah, blah, blah. The following week or the following day.
Come back and see.
And I'm like, you know what? God said, instead of John, why don't you focus on Mark? She throws a fit.
I don't throw a fit.
Whoa!
We're not doing John
no more. I already got excited about John. I wanted to know John.
Because you know why? Okay, like, let me explain how my brain works and how I work. Once you tell me something, I take it. I process it and I start working on it. Mid-processing,
you're not done processing.
To me and tell me I'm still trying to process it. You come tell me, this is the new thing. Now I gotta start processing that one again.
No, that was a big one, and that actually caused a lot of friction.
Oh my gosh,
I had to tell her many times. Look, you gotta maintain flexibility.
Mind you, him like that.
I'm very flexible.
Boom. I'm like,
you've got to be
Relax.
flexible. Listen to me.
Tomorrow.
And I tell her. And what do I usually tell you?
Next week.
Babe. What do I that's not true. What do I usually tell you? I tell you a few things, right? Number one, change is the only consistent in life.
Correct.
If you're not willing to change, you're not willing to grow.
Absolutely.
And that means you're not willing to get better.
Absolutely.
Me, I am a do more, be more kind of guy until you get to perfection. And I always tell you, it's like you're making food. You keep seasoning here and there, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, until you get your perfect desired taste. And that's where I had to have this conversation with her. And I said, look, you gotta be patient with me.
Yeah.
I'm the chef in this case, right? I'm cooking this thing, and it's my first time cooking this thing.
Yeah.
And so be patient.
And
I'm gonna do some things. I'll taste it. If it tastes good, we'll keep moving. If it's not, we'll add a few things here until we get that perfection.
And work was done on both parts too, because even you at some point you felt like, okay, I can understand the way you work. It's not, it's different from the way I work.
Yes.
For me, you tell me this, I can easily just transition. I can easily just adapt. For me, it takes time. I gotta process it.
So
it's gotta make sense in my head.
What I started doing, I was like, okay, I ain't telling you nothing no more. Okay, I'm not telling you, because you know what? This can change tomorrow.
It can change tomorrow.
Don't
have no conversation with me talking about, let's do this, and then you come next. I'm like, but what we talked about last week? Like,
oh my goodness.
And then another beautiful thing about how our dynamic works is we always make sure we're on the same page too on things. I mean, the Texas thing, I was like, I can't do this. We met in the middle, and it wasn't until I came and said, you know what, I'm in agreement, is when we made the move. And that happens a lot. That happens a lot in a lot of things we do in our marriage and our family and our home. Is we make sure we're on the same page before we, you know.
And sometimes we don't move forward until we are on the same page. If we cannot agree, because we believe the Bible says, if two shall agree on anything, they will say to this mountain, be moved, and it shall be moved, right? No, they will ask my Father in heaven to do for them anything, and it shall be done for them, right? Because of the power of agreement. I believe strongly in the power of agreement. And so I try as much as possible to come in agreement with somebody, most of the time, my wife. And when we're not in agreement, we don't execute.
And also, for those that don't mistake it as, there are times where, for example, God said, I didn't get the revelation, he did. God said, get up and go. That's the revelation. That didn't change. When we did, might have changed, but we still got up and went. So there's some times where even if I'm not in agreement, doesn't mean that thing is gonna happen, especially if God is the one telling you these things. I've gotten to a place where I trust you because I know you trust God. I follow you because I know you're following God. So there's some times where I don't agree. That's where I go into a place of prayer too. God, show me what you're showing this man so I can get in agreement with him. So I'm not even leading him in the wrong way, because he wants to be in agreement with me before he moves. So if I'm supposed to be following what he's doing and he's waiting on me, I'm doing a disservice too, if that makes sense. So it's like, for me, I have a part to play in making sure that I'm also following my head as he's following Christ. You understand? So there's place and time where we agree, absolutely. And there's also time when it's like, this is what God said. It's clear as day. And I trust that because I know he goes to God for everything. So this,
so faith, big one, prayer, fasting, getting into the word. What does the Bible say about this thing? And just trusting God and just believing God and just going forward in faith. And then being flexible as we go, right? The Bible talks about, it says, God said, I'm going to remove from you a heart of stone and I will give you a heart of flesh, right? You will feel things. You're soft enough to be flexible. You're not stiff-necked, one way or no way, right? So we had to be flexible, bend here and there, move things around, change things around, do this, do that, and things like that as we go. And then communication, keeping each other on the same page, right? Being transparent with one another. And look, this is where we're at. This is what I'm thinking. This is where we're going. This is what we're doing.
This is where
on the same page. We're transparent. We're talking. We're communicating. And never feel like if you have something to say, never feel like you can't talk to me about it. You know what I mean? And sometimes, man, look, patience. Patience. If it's a medicine. If this is happening, walk away, right? Walk away and let time heal. Let time come in the mix and let time do what it does, right? And let patience do what it does. And before you know it, you're coming back together again and you're working it out together again. But patience, man,
it's key.
I'm talking about a year and a half worth of patience. For example,
we're talking about get up and go. We would have left when you got that get up and go.
Exactly.
But I was like, whoa,
that's one patient right there, right? Exactly.
And we were butting head at that point in time. Get up and go means now he was ready to go. I wasn't. So it took 9 months for me to be like, okay, I got it.
And
Let's
even
go.
then, we went to halfway.
Exactly.
Right? It wasn't really where we were. It was halfway.
Exactly.
And even at the halfway point, it was
1
year and a year and a half kind of patience that was needed.
This is almost 2 years
before the actual destination, right?
Yeah.
But then when we got to the destination, this lady loved Texas more than I do. I'm like, yo, you good?
Let him try. Just try to move me from here. Just try. He's like, so
oh my goodness.
She
loves Texas more than I do. But again, I love Texas too. But God has just been good. That's the bottom line that we're saying here.
Yes.
God has been good. It's been a ride. It's been awesome. It's been a journey. And to be quite honest, there's nobody else I would want to be on this journey with, if not my babe. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Because this is ordained by God.
Yes.
This is another person would not understand this life, would not understand this journey, would not understand the assignment, the mission. But God, knowing from the beginning that it needed to be her who was gonna be on this journey with me, right? It needed to be me who's gonna be on the journey with her.
Yeah.
It's just God's orchestrated and design, you know. But again, as far as transitioning is concerned, faith, flexibility, communication, patience.
Those are our tools.
Patience, you know. But I mean, anything else?
No.
I'm just saying, I think I will say this. I'm gonna say this and we're gonna close. Whatever season you find yourself, whether you're a new parent, you're grieving, you're starting over in marriage, in relationship,
career change.
Yeah. You're moving to a new place, you're relocating, you're starting a business.
Yeah.
Whatever the case may be, know and understand that you are not alone.
Yeah.
You've got to understand that. You've got to understand that you're not alone. And if you keep showing up, if you keep showing up with grace and trusting God, eventually it will turn in your favor.
Yep.
I love that song. That was my theme song, man. It's turning around for me.
Yep.
Around for me. Around for me. Around for me. It's turning around. It will always be like this.
Yeah.
It will perfect that concerneth me. Sooner or later, it'll work in my favor. It's turning around for me.
Woo.
That has to be your song.
Yeah.
Whenever you're going through a moment of transition, you've got to just hold on to that and say, man, it is turning around for me. I know it's not always going to be like this. God will perfect everything that concerns me. Sooner or later, it'll work in my favor because it's turning around for my good.
Yeah.
That is my nugget for you on today.
Come on now.
I'm ready to close, man. Are y'all ready to close?
Listen,
look,
I'll just say this. My nugget, choose the right person to do life with. That's my nugget.
You know,
choose the right person to do life with.
I hope we shared a tip or two to help solidify your kingdom union, not only with yourself, but also with others, and most importantly, with God on today.
Don't forget to like, share with your friends and family, hit that subscribe button, and comment down below. What season are you in? What season are you in?
Matter of fact, comment, I'm not alone.
I'm not alone.
Say, I'm not alone. Comment, I'm not alone. Comment, I am not alone. All right? Until next time, be the light.
Be the salt.
And remember, all things are possible if you believe.
Bye.
Goodbye.